They seem to buy other people's stuff and then rebrand it, which Melissa does.
Yeah.
Speaking of that,
I was like
the
Costco.
Coleco thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is the Coleco thing?
Go ahead, because that's a similar situation.
Is there something new? Oh, right. Okay. I thought because you opened up your laptop and you're like,
No.
Speaking of, I'm like,
Speaking
oh
of
God, what
Coleco,
happened?
They're back.
Yeah,
baby.
so they did something like that. They bought something and put their name on it.
What is it?
essentially?
Or
So
it might have been the other way around.
yeah,
Someone
there's
may
a
have
company
bought
called
the Coleco
Retro
name.
VGS. Is this company that tried to come out with its own sort of gaming system in the vein of like 8 and 16-bit
Yep.
titles.
This was
right?
like last fall. They put out they did an Indiegogo. They were
Did
trying
not
to get like
get funded.
$2 million. They didn't come close.
Then they hooked up with the Coleco brand,
Uh-huh.
and they got their hands on the molds for, I believe, the Atari Jaguar.
I think that's correct.
That's Atari.
Yeah,
Retro.
but someone had already bought those molds,
Okay.
and they were like sitting in like a Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse for decades.
Top men.
When Retro VGS and Coleco like came together and were like, "Hey, let's get those molds.
Yeah.
Let's make a new system,
Of the
and we're gonna call it the Chameleon."
The Coleco Chameleon.
because you have no idea what the fuck it is because it's a fucking Jaguar mold that plays
It's this
Coleco
like
games.
shady shape-shifting thing, right?
Yeah, none of this thing sounds.
That looks like it's got like an Xbox One controller.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So, the quick pitch on this is, I talked to the president of Retro VGS, and the guy's like, man, you know what? He's like, oh, in the
What?
world of like DLC, he's like, doesn't DLC suck? And I was like, go on. He's like, doesn't internet connected consoles just suck?
Oh,
you have
boy.
to let things update and all this stuff. And
Well,
I'm
you
like,
really thought this pitch out, didn't you?
I'm like, all right, what are we getting at here? So their vision, their pitch is that they want to make this new platform that people develop for. And I shit you not, he said that he's like, I'm talking to Atari, I'm talking to Capcom, everyone seems on board. I'm like,
Yeah, companies that are really healthy in the video game world these days.
all right.
Why don't you ask Konami to get on board while you're at it?
yeah, I'm like, okay.
Are they talking back?
He goes, wouldn't it be amazing if EA made another Madden game, but like a 16-bit Madden game?
Oh, you mean their mobile game?
And that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, it's all so they think that for reasons of like posterity, no other, like every other platform out there is in a precarious situation where like, oh, this game won't be supported anymore. The servers,
They're not wrong about that.
Right.
Nice.
Well, whoa.
Yeah,
That was pretty good.
They aren't. They're
something.
not wrong about that. But at the same time, I was like, well, what about Steam, right? Like, all you really need is like a halfway decent computer or a laptop or something like that
To play
if you want to
those
play those
specific
kinds
games.
of games,
Right.
which you will be able to do.
Like, have you heard this thing called Undertale? It was kind of popular. Like,
Yeah.
that's not, that's just a thing you can play on your PC.
Didn't really have an answer to that. The system's going to use proprietary game cartridges.
Oh, no.
And the claim is that it'll be way easy to port legacy games like from Atari,
Like
from
burn 'em to the cart?
SNES, NES, Genesis, etc., to this new format that they're trying to pioneer.
Can't imagine that they're actually going to be ROMs that you burn to because that seems really
I don't think it's like a
expensive.
burning thing. I think this
It's
is
like
going to
an
have to be
SD card
plated.
on the
This
thing?
will have to no.
No.
These are their own cartridges.
But I'm saying like in the cart, I
don't know. It's
Because
like hardwired
the
as a-
cart would have to be a universal kind of thing to be able to play games from these various systems or whatever.
I just wonder if it'll be like a locked SD card.
I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe the access to that board is going to be super
None of this
simple.
sounds on the up and up in a way that feels comfortable to me.
Because
there
it's
was-
not.
Yeah.
Because all of it is very like dicey.
It is really
At
dicey.
best,
Is a
at
good word.
best.
There was an interview that went around in December, I think, with either this dude or with another one from Kyle Orland. That was just like, it felt like this dude has like a real passion in his heart.
Definitely.
He means the best. He wants the best.
Definitely, these guys were
like,
passionate on the. They were sincere. They were
But it
definitely
also,
sincere.
I'd read, and I don't know if this is substantiated or not, but I had, like, when this thing first started making the rounds, I started hearing things like saying, like, yeah, the guts of this thing are just from some other retro system that they more or less just took and copied or
Right,
something like
right.
that. Like, did not.
I believe it's basically that retro VGS system.
No, but even
But
that,
this is, yeah.
Right.
even that had a previous
Yes,
progenitor that
yes.
had been.
But
yeah.
this is likely the third iteration
Right.
of this is the third costume this box is wearing. essentially.
And this is the first one that has an association with
a brand that's somewhat recognizable.
Yeah.
And didn't Neo Geo try this?
They did it successfully.
Well, no, they didn't do it.
Well,
Another third party made it, and then I think they actually got Neo Geo on board after the fact, like after they had already kind of designed this thing.
Like the Neo Geo Gold or something like that?
It was the handheld system thing, but it also had the absurd pricing.
Right, of a Neo Geo.
Well, even for a Neo Geo, it was like, I can't believe this is what they think they're going to charge for this stuff.
So speaking of pricing, it's going to be $150.
Okay.
And there's this other thing. They still have to like raise money for this. Like the Kickstarter starts February 26th.
$300,000 or something.
I'm not sure what the amount is, but
it hasn't gone up.
It hasn't gone up yet. And this is again after one crowdfunding round had failed.
To be fair, that first crowdfunding round, they were asking for 1.95 mil.
Right.
And that's too much.
I would imagine it's a bit lower this time.
Well, like their argument there was like, oh, we've pulled out some features.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the internet stuff anymore. The retro VGS was going to have internet connectivity. It's like slightly lower scaled technology, you know? We'll see.
The whole thing is very, like, again, just to reiterate, it's dicey. I don't understand how you're going to convince anybody to develop for this platform. It's essentially where it starts and finishes.
I mean,
it just doesn't sound like a strong sale at all.
So the other thing was like when the retro VGS was happening, one of the things that they were trying to say was, hey, people love Shovel Knight. People love Towerfall.
Yeah.
People love all these games. And at the time, the retro VGS was going to have like a gig of memory in it. The cartridges were going to be able to hold a gig, so that you could have a game up to a gig in size. The report that was coming out, the interviews that they were having a month or two ago. Again, I didn't talk to them yesterday or anything, but those initial interviews were like, oh, we're just going to go. The hard limit's going to be 100 megabytes now, and that's no space for new retro style quote unquote games.
Right,
and that's like.
So is there just like a misunderstanding with how modern games, the modern games that try and emulate that
are actually not?
They're actually really big.
This whole thing sounds like a fundamental misunderstanding of the marketplace.
It really is, and I kind of had that in the back of my head, and I was polite. I just think like these two things are like not fitting.
It's just not a strong pitch. Like if you want to make that retro system, you have to be able to sort of say, okay, well, you're going to have this is a thing that plays all these legacy games that you already own on these cartridges, and like that, like that whatever that system, the Retron that we bought, like that's basically what that was.
That's an emulator.
It is an emulator, but it's also it has support for all these old games and different systems. Yeah. This sounds like. Well, we want to kind of give you the experience of what it's like to play old games on a system like this, but we're not emulating, we won't be able to sell these other, it just sounds confused.
It sounds confused. It sounds like I'm not pinpointing it at one person, but it sounds like as like a hive-minded entity, they were like, "Oh man, 8-bit games are doing really well right now. If only there was a way to like harness that and somehow
there is. It's called a low-grade PC. Like you don't have to spend a lot of money to be able to play those games.
That's not fair. It's called a Raspberry Pi.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so that I played around with this thing called the Analog NT a couple months ago. Do you guys know what that is? Okay, so this is a $500 NES. But it's got like the original NES hardware in it.
That sounds legal.
No, apparently it's not.
Oh, not legal.
It's not. It is legal.
Oh, okay.
So it is legal.
It is.
You can crack open an NES and repackage it and sell it?
No, they didn't do that. Apparently, they just like bought all these boards. I have an email explaining to me why it's not illegal.
Okay.
Whether or not that's
tell
true,
the judge. Like,
look, this is a
listen, sir. I have this document. They sent me an email.
Listen,
I have a note from Jonathan Nintendo himself, and he has told me.
I know I filmed the Super Bowl, but I replaced the intro and the outro with me being like, "Welcome to the Super Bowl."
Right.
So it should be legit.
It all has my own commentary.
For the purposes of this
I don't know. It could be totally legit.
Could be, but for the purposes of this story, just suspend your disbelief and understand that this is okay.
Okay.
So they have the Nintendo guts,
like actual,
and they do an unbelievable job at upscaling NES games to 1080p. Okay. And when I mean like pixel by pixel, like perfect representation. I'm not joking. Like you guys have.
I don't know, man, because it's not a Nintendo game unless there's like a ton of scan lines and like a little bit blurry.
Did you say you have one?
I do have one. and we should take a look at it and play with it. I did a video up
What
on
are they
CNET.
using as an upscaler? Do you know?
I don't know the technology that does it.
Is it just Nintendo Entertainment System?
It's just and and it plays like the Famicom games.
What's
too.
it called?
It's called the Analog NT.
Okay.
I believe it's analog ending in GUE is how that's spelled.
Oh, the European / Canadian spell.
What are you searching that for, guy?
There's a upscaler. I forget what it's called. Jason clued me into it. That's amazing, also, and it's the something Meister.
So
it's
I
not Jägermeister.
So I hooked this up to like a 37-inch LCD we have in the studio, and I'm like putting my nose up to the screen. And I'm just like,
I love
Mike
it.
Tyson's Punch Out looks amazing. Yeah. It just looks amazing. It looks like somebody painted it. I'm not trying to like.
Oh, FrameMeister.
It just really was impressive stuff. It's $500. This thing.
So that FrameMeister, the upscaler, I think it's called a FrameMeister. Also pretty expensive.
It's amazing, like the way, because everyone knows when you hook these legacy systems up to modern TVs, they look like dog shit. No. This did an impeccable job at it. The reason I get into this is because this Chameleon has an HDMI out, but does not do the upscaling, because essentially they're just saying like, no, these games just like they have to look shitty.
So it'll just be tiny on your screen?
No, they'll fit, but they'll be blown up.
They'll be blown out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's anyway.
There's always limits to what they can do with that stuff.
I had to walk backwards into this whole thing to muster up the sort of
was this like
thing. Well, that's all there really was. That's
where you like how did that interview end? How did this discussion with this?
I was like, good luck with everything, man.
All right, that's good.
Yeah,
you have an article up on. All right, let's talk about the. Let's circle back around to the Coleco Chameleon. We got some updates. Jeff Baccalar.
Jeff is resting his eyeball on his microphone in just like.
So someone tweeted me.
God,
I forget who the person was, but thank you.
We talked about this last week.
Talked about it last week.
This is supposed to be. Oh, it's a retro console. Let's just play cool old style games.
Do not. I think from what I remember from last week, Jeff, you had seen this at Toy Fair. Talked to some folks there, and the pitch was. Forget about patches. Remember the days before content patches and game updates. You put a game in, you play it. That's what we're doing.
No DDoS attacks.
No DDoS attacks.
You can't. There's no why. There's no internet.
That's what this Coleco Chameleon is about. It is an old school, back to its roots gaming console. We're going to get people to develop for it.
Right.
Let's do this. Let's power forward. You have some updates.
So we were all skeptical about that premise on its face. We were just like, all right, let's break that down a little bit. The thing I wrote was at the end was sort of like, I don't know if this is really a thing that's going to work or it's practical. And then someone tweeted me and pointed me to the direction of the Completely Unnecessary podcast.
Okay.
And those guys were talking about some detective work that they had been doing in sort of tandem with a few forums online. And there was this overwhelming amount of what you could call evidence and just sort of really things that were too good to be true in terms of like coincidences and whatnot. And turns out a lot of people are now convinced that the prototype that they had at Toy Fair, which was under a plastic case, which wasn't accessible by any means, which I could not...
Clear plastic.
Which, yes, hindsight is 2020, but I could not get over the fact that like I was staring at this thing, and in my mind I was just like, what is going on with this board that was sticking out on the top of it?
Like a circuit board?
Yeah, but it was more of like in the cartridge slot.
Yeah.
That I did not bring up when I was talking to them about it because I was just sort of getting this spiel and Mark was shooting his B-roll of this thing. So
is it in the B-roll?
So what's the evidence here? Or what's the situation?
So the situation
What's the allegation?
Yes. Good job. Good work.
Thanks.
The allegation is that, well, okay, let's take a step back for a minute.
So Hitler's got a micropenis.
Well,
If we're talking about allegations.
There is a rule about Kickstarter, which is what the Coleco Chameleon is about to enter into, I believe today, the 26th, where you need to have a working prototype.
To do what?
For your item to be crowdfunded, to be Kickstarter.
I see. Right.
So
that's for real?
That is for real.
I didn't know that.
I think they changed that a year or two ago.
Yes.
Wow.
It happened after, I think it was like all the potato salad shit. And there was like other stuff.
So you can't just do.
Oh, you know what? It was also like the laser razor. was like a razor that was gonna like shave you. With
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
that was
like
someone sure said it was gonna
like a lightsaber.
So, there's a lot of shit.
Okay,
out there.
and now you need to be like,
Right, but
no.
what if you could shave your face with a laser?
Who would do that? No way.
Well, look, I don't know. I don't know.
A shot.
Anyway,
so they had an unsuccessful crowdfunding thing on Indiegogo that was asking for around $2 million.
this is now we're back, not the laser razor. We're back
Yes,
to
we're
We're back to
Chameleon.
so when it was known as the Retro VGS, we talked about the molds, we talked about the Jaguar stuff, we talked about all that.
Yeah.
Fine.
I've
They
talked about the
we
mold.
talked about
I've talked about
we talked about the Coleco branding that they're
You talk about the
working with.
Coleco branding.
We
You talk
talked
about a
about
guy who,
How much would you pay on
talk-
Kickstarter?
Is
When
this-
when you talk about Coleco branding,
Yeah.
so there's all these people on these forums and they're referencing all this stuff and they're like, you know what?
What?
We needed to get this prototype sort of like in the public eye.
Who?
Coleco, the retro VGS guys, the Coleco guys, we need to get this out there. We need to make sure people think we have a prototype so we can go to Kickstarter
Okay.
and say, hey, fund our thing.
Okay.
Okay. Now there's a lot of speculation that this is not really a prototype as much as it is a mini Super Nintendo inside, shoehorned in to this Jaguar mold.
Now, when you say
okay, go on.
So, okay, when you say a mini Super Nintendo,
Which I was unfamiliar with, but
is that a thing?
it is a thing.
By Nintendo?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But there was a product called a Mini-SNES that I believe was out there at some point that was meant to be...
that they didn't make, obviously.
Oh, I see. Okay, wait, I see it. Yeah. The mini, like it's like a tinier Super Nintendo. I've totally seen these.
It's like the PSONE.
Yeah.
Remember that?
But not necessarily by Nintendo.
I don't know.
Okay.
No, there was a remodeled SNES.
So it was
that
by
a
Nintendo.
smaller form factor.
So you're
Okay.
saying it was by Nintendo.
Yes.
Okay.
The
As an
SNES
actual Nintendo hardware.
The SNES Mini.
Legal. Legit.
The damning evidence is in these photographs where you look at the back of the Chameleon.
I saw this.
And you look at the back of the mini SNES.
It looks similar.
lot of similarities there.
So-
also there's a healthy amount, a generous amount of electrical taping. Shapes are the same. It's
What's electrical taping?
the black tape.
Oh my god.
No, I didn't know what that. Wait, there's a lot of electrical tape
So-
on the prototype.
The allegations that they just jerry rigged this fucking thing together.
They just
Isn't
Wile E.
that what a
Coyote with a
prototype is,
plunger
though?
shoving that
no,
thing in there.
No, that is not.
well,
That is
I mean,
not.
well, wait.
If I put a horse costume on you, I don't have a prototype of a horse.
I don't. Well,
That's not a bad. I can't defeat that analogy.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
How many
It's pretty-
how many
it's
hearts
pretty-
does Vinny have?
It's
You
pretty
have any hearts?
airtight. well, what I'm saying is, if I were to take that mini and if it weren't just taking that thing and shoving a mold on top of it, if you were to be like, well, no, we use this as the base, we can make this from scratch.
But that can't be the prototype.
That can't be the prototype.
really.
That can't be a pro-
They can't make just SNESs. They're
Yeah,
not.
it's not.
That's
because
what the console is.
The prototype is supposed to be at least the basic version of the thing that you're going to put out, even if it's not something that's ready for mass production. It
Yeah.
has to have the basic hardware. I think that you're going to sell.
The idea is like we made one.
Yeah.
Right? We made this one.
As
we
opposed
want to
to-
make a million of
But
these.
like this thing didn't have an HDMI port. It only
Yeah.
had the audio visual cables from an SNES.
Which I did. So
Unless you saw something different.
No. Everything that these guys on this podcast were talking about checked out. As far as my experience, they're looking at this thing straight up. It's just.
But what
It's sketchy.
Were they
It's
playing
just sketchy.
SNES games when you demoed it?
They were demoing a 16-bit game that I did not recognize.
thing
That
that I
could be
read
running
was-
off of SNES hardware.
Sure.
The thing that I read was literally every game they demoed was with was an SNES game, and also
Like designed to at least run
What
off
were
of
the
SNES
controllers
hardware.
when you
So
playing.
here's where like
Uh-huh.
all the things start flooding back, and you're like, you're right, that was weird looking. Like again, the plastic case was weird. There was there was electrical tape disguising what the Chameleon controller and how that was connecting into the console,
Okay.
which is just
That's
like,
not a good look.
which is like what the fuck.
yeah. What did the controller look like?
So their controller looks like a Wii U Pro controller.
Okay,
If that rings.
So
any bells.
yeah, totally.
All right, so that's what it looked like. But there are some super dodgy little alterations they were doing. Vinny pulled up some stock art. Now, this is from them.
If it weren't for the control stick, it would literally just look like one of those aftermarket SNES controllers.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's got a dual analog on it.
And if you really want like the real, they do a very convincing and thorough breakdown on the completely unnecessary podcast. Those guys got into the weeds on this thing.
Also, no, that is not an indictment of their podcast. That's what it's actually called, the completely unnecessary podcast.
No, we're not criticizing. That is how they refer to themselves. So it's weird. You know, I think we had a correct amount of criticism and skepticism last week when we talked about it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's way worse than we even maybe gave them the benefit of the doubt. It's dodgy. It's just dodgy stuff, and it's starting to feel like a hose job a little bit.
So I just want to go back and defend the prototyping a bit.
Sure.
And I think again, I would like to say for prototyping, I think you're fair to use whatever you want as long as you're not infringing on something.
But in this case, I think they are.
I think if you are, and I think also if you're charging money based off of that prototype, that's probably a big difference.
Yeah, sure. Like if you and I want to build a prototype for a thing internally, sure.
And we're like, we taped like 3 Xbox Ones together, and we're like, we could probably build this if we wanted to, but like, we use like Black Magic boxes off the shelf to get like HDMI to whatever, and we're like, this is kind of cool, right? But I think duping somebody,
right? And then that's the thing; it's the deceit, right? There's like actual deceit happening here,
or at least that is the implication.
That's the allegation,
because they're not out there saying, "Oh, okay, what we're basically doing is taking the innards of an established 16-bit console and just building a new thing around that."
And the messaging is dodgy at best.
Yeah,
because even before you knew any of this, the way you described those demos and the way that their setup sounded, it all just sounded so hacked together.
Right. Yeah. Which is apparently what it might actually be.
We'll see, I guess.
Or not. This thing could just did they
away.
Get their...
So I believe it starts today, Friday the 26th.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
And I don't know. There is some stuff on their Facebook page where someone's like, hey, what's the deal with your prototype, quote unquote?
That'll be all over the Kickstarter, I'm sure.
So now that we have this information, I'm very curious to see how this Kickstarter does.
They've issued statements on like their Twitter and social media that say basically like any of these allegations are untrue. Our software was, quote, running the games. We will prove a lot more on the Kickstarter page.
All right, so it remains to be seen.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to be skeptical at best, just because of, there is a really shocking and, illustrious amount of evidence.
I'll play super devil's advocate here for a second.
This would be super duper devil's advocate.
This is super duper devil's advocate. I'm making this thing, right? I buy one of those mini SNES boards because it has a data to RGA or RGB board. I know that's in there, printed circuit board already. That I know it does audio and it does RCA out already. I ripped that thing out. I just used the case mold and shove it in there. I ripped the guts out, put my own Arduino or whatever the fuck I'm running, my Raspberry Pi on.
But maybe you disclose that.
Could be, or I just say like, hey,
at this point they have to.
Hey, like when we get the manufacturer and we're working out the actual printed circuit board stuff later, but right now this is what we're gonna make. We know that this, it could be.
Sure. I just think if they're gonna sell people on this at this point, they have to be really specific about what they're doing. That is not just the guts of this thing.
Yeah, and from here on out, the transparency has to be 100%.
As always, I think that this doesn't feel like a scam to me so much as it feels like me signing the paper that says I'm going to get my grades up. Don't worry about it. My parents don't need to know this. Like I don't need to disclose because everything's going to get fixed. I'm going to fix this. It's going to be fine.
Like, that Kickstarter.
We'll just put this box in here. It'll be fine. By the time
6 months from now, we'll be good.
Exactly. And like that is not great. Like,
and then,
the best business.
And then somebody had a meeting with your parents and was like, "Did you know it was just a SNES?
There's a SNES in there.
Why didn't you just tell us?
What you handed in.
If you
for
told
your
us, it would be fun.
And that's how Coleco Chameleon got the belt again.
I'm putting I'm putting this up on the shelf.
Yeah.
You can't touch it. Your controllers are getting locked away. No more Kickstarter for you for 6 months.
Fine.
Don't you learned your lesson with Indiegogo?
Yeah, no.
But like, even if you play devil's advocate and you do all that, And
on its face, still, is this a product that's worth?
Right,
but like,
even the product they're saying they want to make is not necessarily a great product.
Like, I'm not really excited about this thing, even if it is completely on the up and up.
Yeah,
because let me say this: we've all been to demos where it's been like an Xbox exclusive or a PS4 exclusive, and they put the sheet over the PC that's obviously running the thing.
Yes.
And it's like you get handed like, this is a PS4 exclusive, right? Yeah, totally.
Here's an
Why
Xbox
am I playing with an
controller?
Xbox controller? All right, whatever. And it's like, okay. Suspension of disbelief here. It's a dev kit. We get it. But that all aside, you still have to ask yourself, why don't you want this thing? Just saying, think about it before you go to that Kickstarter page. I'm not saying don't do it. Think about it.
Read the literature.
It just got me thinking.
Read the literature. Read the fine print.
It just got me thinking, like, man, their little booth was just like a carnival booth. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like I just think of like a magician, where it's like waving their hands.
You there, journalist.
I feel like you don't
come on over and see the wild new Coleco Chameleon.
10 years ago, you saw a lot more of this stuff. You just don't see it that much anymore. These like little like
3-card Monty.
Well, those like little kind of like knockoff.
Well, you got like the Retron that came out like a couple of years ago.
That thing's pretty awesome.
That thing's solid.
No, the latest version I was a little less impressed with. But yeah, let's move on.
Concrete details, because they're just going to make up all kinds of shit about what this could be versus what you actually think it's going to be.
We just did a great job at it. Let's move on.
All right.
Speaking of what it could be versus what the actual shit is, what's Coleco's Chameleon?
Oh my God! Okay, listen.
Oh Lord!
So the Coleco Chameleon update.
This story refuses to go away,
and it just keeps getting weirder
and better. If you just like if you like rubbernecking, it just gets better.
I don't, but I still want to hear this story.
Okay.
I just want to get where I'm going, but you're sitting next to me in the car.
That Kickstarter,
yes,
that was supposed to happen 2 Fridays ago. Last Friday. Mm-hmm. Never happened. Never started.
That was the date it was supposed to definitely.
That was the date it was.
That was the
supposed to
kickoff.
happen.
Yeah,
we were talking about that's when this show goes up.
Right. Did not happen.
Weird.
Why didn't it happen?
They listened to our show.
It didn't happen because they said, "Hey, we want to keep making tweaks and we want to improve this product." And so that was that. Then they put up, in response to everyone's skepticism over what the fuck's inside there, is it an Mini-SNES electrical taped to a Jaguar shell? Is that what it is? Can you be more transparent? So they literally...
Transparent, you say?
They literally became transparent and put out a picture of a translucent Jaguar shell with some sort of like... guts inside, like a
some electronic board of some fashion.
Like transistors
that's not an SNES. That's clearly a real console.
Yeah,
that what got the electronics in it. That must be real.
There's a board in there. This is amazing.
This is amazing.
Wait, so what? Well, that's their response. So what's the problem with their response?
So they put a gallery of photos on their Facebook page showing off this board inside this thing.
Yes,
kind of weird watermarks, but that's another story.
I love the watermarks.
And it was not very long before somebody said on, I believe it was the Atari Age forums again. Those guys are like the detectives of the retro console world. Someone was like, "Hey, well, that board looks like this old PCI capture card. Wait a minute. Oh, that's exactly what it is."
and for what it's worth, I caught this via Twitter via Frank Cifaldi, who just laid into them on this one.
Frank's doing a bang-up job of this. And
so
that photo, that very clear as day photo that somebody took and did a side-by-side with that PCI capture card very quickly vanished from their Facebook page.
Oh, weird.
So weird, you guys.
Wait, are you doing South Park quotes?
I don't know what I'm doing there.
Okay.
And so that happened. And, the fallout lasted about 2 days until the ColecoVision company proper, the Coleco
Mr. Coleco, Frank Coleco,
made an official statement on their Facebook page saying, "Yeah, we've heard about this. We have all the confidence in the world in these retro VGS guys, the guys we've licensed our name out to, and we are going to send a team of independent engineers to see just what the hell these guys are doing. Just to make sure everything's on the level.
We have faith.
We have every reason to believe that this is going as planned and going as...
They are definitely using that stuff for nuclear power. We're just going to send some inspectors over there.
We just need to send these UN guys in there.
Just
to kick the tires on
happens
this
every
thing.
week. We're just going to...
It's just routine. Just basic. So we're waiting the report from the engineers. And there were other little details like, this will not be postponed. The only people who can postpone the assessment are the engineers. RetroV just cannot postpone this if they want to. Basically, they can't stall. The engineers have to make their assessment.
They have a 7-day window to do this.
They have a window, a finite window to do it in.
What is happening?
If it does not check out, we are considering pulling the deal.
This is what they're saying public, forward-facing?
That's what they have on their Facebook page.
At this stage, and with the way this thing is escalating...
Is this a person?
I half expect the engineers to show up and just have there be a fax machine in an empty warehouse.
Yeah.
The whole room has just been stripped. There's nothing there.
There's just bees in
it's just
there.
80 boxes with peanut foam and grosses of finger cuffs from Japan in there or something.
It's just boiler room style, just empty shell.
Just Avon boxes. What were you guys doing?
It's just cardboard cutouts of office furniture.
We're selling Cutco knives. That's what we're doing?
Because this is the kind of con job that's happening.
That's
here.
crazy.
It's something.
I am also amazed. Let me just say that somebody saw that semi-transparent shell, saw the layout of some integrated circuits and a couple of capacitors on a board, and was like, I recognize that.
Yeah, right away.
My dude, do not underestimate an electronics geek's ability to identify on site what it is they are looking at.
I am not underestimating. I am marveling at somebody being like, oh yeah, that's 57 Chevy. I recognize that profile anywhere.
And now that you all credibility is sort of evaporated from this entire situation, you have to almost assume the hilarious situation where transparency was interpreted by them through literally a transparent.
I love the
Jaguar
I love the watermark. If you go up one image on this.
Sorry, I'm actually just paging back and forth through all of these images.
Just scroll up a little bit. Or no, maybe it's not. Scroll down, maybe. Maybe it's not in that thread at all.
It's on it's still on their Facebook page.
Yeah, it's this amazing, just
serifed. Yeah.
It's
bad. It's bad.
I love
it.
It's just it almost like a 90s. I don't even know.
It's like
so
someone
good.
tried to combine a Calvin Klein ad as a watermark over these junky ass pictures.
That's such a shame.
The news started to come out, and I was like, yeah, this is all but. This is just too good.
This has now reached the stage where I think the fiasco aspect of it has largely dwarfed even the possible excitement around what it was they were originally pitching.
This does sound like a game of fiasco.
I said we need to use this as the next plot line.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to do that.
We're going to have to.
Deal with it, Vinny. This is the reality of it all. This is actually happening.
Did somebody just take this transparent shell and rip out a PCI capture card out of their PC and then just put it on top and take that picture?
But that's what I want to see.
Or
I want to be a fly.
running?
I want to be a fly on the wall in that room where it's is that believable? Do you think we could?
Also, that thing looks like a translucent Roomba.
It's so crazy.
Do you think that whoever's running the retro VGS
Mike
side of
Kennedy is
Mike
his
Kennedy?
name.
Does he have an engineer who pulled this shit? And Mike is going to this engineer what did you do?
Are you kidding me?
And he's like, that's not a PCI card. It's not.
Where is it? I shipped it out. I
have another model I can show you. This one works.
Hold on, just give me 20 minutes.
Yeah, give me 20 minutes. Give me a
screwdriver.
I just need to plug some things in.
Wait, that's a slice of pizza under there.
Wait,
Vinny.
That's
pizza. That's my lunch.
I have a question for Vinny.
Yeah.
Is that still a prototype?
Well, no. Well, okay.
Oh no. No.
That's
me just busting your chest.
I still stand by
the horse thing. You stand by the horse analogy.
What was the horse analogy?
If I put a horse costume on you, I don't have a.
Yes, you're prototyping a horse.
Yeah.
This is what we think a horse would look like in the future.
In the future. This could potentially be what we'd be able to manufacture. This is what we might.
None of you know what a prototype is. None of you.
Sort of prototype. It's a.
You can hack together a prototype. This, but they're conning people. That's the difference.
This is what this sounds like. Yes.
This is like a.
I mean, again,
so happy trails to the Coleco Chameleon. I guess I don't know.
Well, no, in 7 days, 6 days, the engineers will have finished their.
Which might be the most hilarious report
you think
ever.
They come out?
Tried to plug it in.
They've absconded to Venezuela by this point. It's not going to happen.
What do you think? They come back and they're like, no, it's legit.
Yeah, this works.
Well, it's actually
great.
super fun.
This works great.
It's a great console.
It's really, we backed it's 100%. And then they're just like in on like packing up their Avon stuff and shipping it out to other people too. They're in on like the money pyramid.
Yeah.
Like, can we get in on this?
How much enriched irradiated material is in there?
It's amazing. It's amazing. This is the gift that keeps on giving.
It's a little.
I'd actually be okay if it just stopped giving at this point. It just end this.
Yeah, but
end this sham.
There's something about a thing where like, oh wait, it can't get any worse, can it? Oh wait, oh my god,
You made it worse.
and it just keeps happening.
I'm still literally just going back and forth on these images because it's pretty amazing.
It's great. It's great. That's really all the time we need to.
But
spend
what could you not ask for a better name than the Chameleon?
Yeah,
That's
this shape shifting.
No, because the chameleon is actually good at hiding itself.
Nice.
This is
Very
this
nice.
chameleon
Very
would
nice.
never survive in nature.
Nice.
Yeah, this is one of nature's mistakes.
All right, we got a couple of other quick stories here. All right. Speaking of prison, let's hit this off and talk about Coleco.
All right.
Oh boy.
Nobody's going to jail for this. Though.
I don't know, man. I'm probably not.
They're going to commercial jail because this whole thing. My God.
Or like
This couldn't have
ethical jail.
We need to just kick this off because we've been. Everybody knows they've been coming here to the Giant Beastcast for their hottest Chameleon updates and information.
Despite the fact we've repeatedly told them not to, they are still doing it.
They're still coming here, and we've been covering the story just like pimples, just like can't let up.
Covering it like pimples, you said?
Like pimples.
Okay.
Like pimples on a teenager. We are all over this. You cannot clear us
We're
off.
on it like a dimply ass, right? Just
You gotta
all
order
over
some
it.
shit off the Gunthy Ranker TV to fucking get that shit off
right.
your face. It's a nightmare.
Don't call Dr. Zizmore. Giant Beastcast is on that shit. And by on that shit, I mean when something happens, we generally spend about.
We read it on another website.
Thank you, Giant Beastcast, for my clear video game news.
It's weird that I don't know. I feel like I personally have been positioned as like
This
the
is your
guy
crusade.
holding
You
the
brought
gun.
it. Here's the
You're
thing
the
that's
Dr.
amazing.
Zizmore of this podcast.
We didn't talk about this when it was the Retro VGS. We didn't talk about it when it first was announced as the
No.
Coleco Chameleon. And you came in like a month ago now.
It was the Toy Fair. It was
a
a show
toy
after
fair.
Toy Fair.
You had all those mushrooms in your face.
Marshmallows.
Not mushrooms, marshmallows.
That was a different day that we thought we agreed we weren't going to talk about.
That was CES, Austin.
Okay.
Mushrooms at CES would be a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
And you came to us with this news of this thing,
Right.
the Coleco Chameleon.
And we were all, I think, equally skeptical.
skeptical, but like, we'll see.
Okay, so what's the update? So the last we heard from the Coleco Chameleon,
Yeah.
Coleco,
It doesn't matter what you call it because it ain't a real thing anymore.
there was
Coleco, the treasure hunter.
there was a shot of this box, which is supposed to be a retro gaming system.
Right.
The pitch being no more the carts basically. It'll run carts.
Right. No internet connection, no patches.
just like it was back in the day.
100
Quote
megabytes
unquote
only.
good old days.
And there was they had questionable hardware. They had questionable prototypes. They had
They had an old ass capture card shoved in there at one point.
So the latest was like a semi-transparent case for the thing with what was allegedly and seemed pretty confirmed to be a PC capture card
Yes.
underneath that thing. And then the last we left off
Was that
Coleco was like, don't worry, we're going to go send our inspectors down there.
We have independent investigators.
They're going to go look and check this out. What happened, JB?
So essentially, imagine a situation where you have like all these inspectors trying to get into like this factory, right? And
Let's say
what do you got in there?
Let's say they're trying to get into Byron, let's say, to go these inspectors to go look at something. And they won't let them
Let us in.
in.
They're like, no, you don't want to
It's
see
hard
that.
to imagine
It's
something
hard
like
to
this.
or Corthnaria. One of those places.
This is a pharmacy. We ain't got anything bad in here. There's nothing. Anyway, the independent engineers that Coleco had assigned to check out what was happening at Retro VGS were told that, no, we were not ready to show you what we have. So they didn't even see it, from what I'm gathering.
And then what did Coleco say?
After getting wind of what happened, Coleco's like, all right, well, we're going to have to go our own way on this, which is the no way, which is this thing's dead.
Which is we're pulling our name.
Off of-
we're disassociating.
And, they ended the relationship.
So what happens when I go to research this on the internet?
It's kind of gone. Like the Chameleon website is gone.
We went to retrovgs.com here last week, and first of all, it's a GoDaddy, but just a parked GoDaddy page
Yeah.
now. Second, internally on on our website, our web service here in the building, CBS is like, no, you can't go there.
But like, no, you can't go there, or like we're going to monitor you if you go. Like when you go to like NeoGAF or Steam here, it's like you can go here, but we're going to monitor you.
No, this is like it's a dead page with a contact form. Like, tell us why you want to go here.
It says like we're sensing something nefarious here. You should not.
And again, that's our internal stuff. Yeah, basically,
this is funny.
You can't go there.
Yeah,
it's the message we get when someone discovers Russian porn torrents. You know, like that is the level of like, nah, fuck you that we're getting from this.
You know you shouldn't be here. I know you shouldn't be here.
And sure, I think it's fair to accuse the CBS firewall as being a little aggressive with that kind of stuff.
Sure,
draconian, perhaps.
But the filters got. Definitely got alerted when we tried to go there. But yeah, so that's the deal.
Let me just read the update because it's a short update from Coleco.
Okay.
They say, the update that you were all anxiously awaiting.
They're like, hey, here's our 50 minutes of fame.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Retro VGS has decided that the work they have created is not sufficient to demonstrate at this time. Consequently, we can no longer proceed with the project, and the Chameleon project will be terminated. This separation is amicable. We wish them luck in the future. We thank the gaming community for their continued support, input, vigilance, and trust. I like vigilance in there.
So let's break this down a few different ways here. First of all, Coleco, a brand that means about as much as my thumb compared to the rest of my body to that a portion of the population, saw this thing, investigated, and decided that even this was too much for their brand, which barely anyone even remembers unless they are hardcore into old video games.
Right. That's
like
fair.
Coleco is just not a brand that, anyone holds a certain amount of prestige around at this point, is my point. And so they're just like, this is too much even for us. I am sitting here trying to imagine what the meetings were between Retro VGS and the folks at Coleco, where they signed off on this at some point and said, yes, we are going to put our brand behind this thing. What must they have promised them at some point to get them to sign on that now has resulted in them very quickly washing their hands of the whole thing?
I think you just exemplify. I think, and Coleco kind of comes off here as like the innocent bystander, like, well, we had no idea what they were up to, right? But I think you hit it on the head. Like, yeah, Coleco isn't a brand that anyone has any sort of stock in.
Like, nobody is mad at Coleco about this because nobody really cared whether Coleco was involved.
The people who care understand what the situation is and understand that Coleco is like a holding company at this point with a brand, right?
Well, yeah. Like when I first heard this, I was thinking of like my grandmother or something. Like Coleco's like them, like, Grandma, Nana, don't take the calls from the people. They want your money, but they're not really from the IRS. Like, don't. Like, oh, the nice man said they're going to make a video game console. I just need to give him all this money. Like, no, Nana, don't do that. And it was just like, Coleco, no, don't do this. Like, I'll send my son-in-law. He likes video games. He'll go investigate. And like, that's
right.
But Coleco's not actually. 2005, I'm reading this off Wikipedia, River West Brands, a Chicago-based brand revitalization company, which I would love to get into, reintroduced Coleco to the marketplace. In late 2006, they introduced the Coleco Sonic, a handheld system containing 20 Sega Master System and Sega Game Gear games.
I think I remember this.
This makes more sense about them getting into this thing.
It does. That was also 11 years ago.
It was.
I think what you have to think about also is like, really, how much money was exchanged hands? Like, I think
did any by that point?
Or did any? I think we're overestimating how much of like a deal this was, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't think like we're talking millions of dollars or anything.
So, I think Coleco gets to come out of this being like, oh, that was a ride.
Like kind of looking at the rest of the internet, like winking, being like, huh?
Yeah,
thanks for your vigilance again.
Thanks for not, allowing
Graham almost got shook down again.
Right? So,
and they'll keep selling, like they do like retro consoles of their own, which is like, oh, here's 30 ColecoVision games packed in that you'll see at Walmart on the holidays. So
what do you think, JB? Case closed?
I don't know. I guess we can
Judge Bacalar?
Where's my gavel?
Ching, ching.
I guess we can call this the nail in the coffin.
I guess.
We thought maybe that was happening twice already in this story.
Has the Chameleon really disappeared?
Perhaps.
Even if you
finally
somehow get to the point where, Retro VGS and the folks involved in this project eventually turn in something that is a real hardware prototype, what reputable electronics company would want to get behind something like this now after this bullshit.
I don't know. What's Dietrich up to? See, he's got money? Still crashing.
But you're
Ferraris?
right. Like,
that dude is in a European jail somewhere. I don't know.
He's talking to McAfee, being like, we can crack this phone.
We can do this.
We could do this.
That guy is in a jungle in Cambodia somewhere. He is fucking,
Where is Dietrich? What the heck?
Dietrich never existed.
What was his? Do you remember his real name?
No, I don't.
but that's the thing. Like,
But there was the guy. There was the one guy, but it was the guy who claimed Dietrich existed. I don't remember the name of the guy, but I remember Dietrich.
I'm just looking up Dietrich crashed car now and like going down a very bad rabbit hole.
Yeah.
so let's think about it realistically for a second. Retro VGS dissolves their incorporation.
Right, there's like no Twitter page anymore. There's no
they
Facebook
dissolve.
page.
Like,
They're gone.
You dissolve it.
I'm saying that's just already happened.
Yeah.
There's already
Sure.
no internet presence.
Whether or not the paperwork's been filed, right. So, and then it's up to these guys if they want to kind of like reemerge as,
So did the Kickstarter ever launch?
No. So the other thing there is like one of the people involved in this is this dude Mike Kennedy, who's the guy who you spoke to at the Toy Fair, right?
Yeah.
And he's like been around in games for a minute.
Yeah, he's not a newcomer.
He did
like,
a retro game magazine.
Right.
He did a couple of other projects over the years. So it's not like I suspect he will reemerge in some capacity as a fan of retro games who wants to do some projects.
Yeah.
Is this going to dog him forever in anything he tries to get involved in?
Probably.
Is he the one that left before this all? So somebody had
He was the one who
parted
was-
ways.
I think he was the one who was kind of like, well, like he was in charge of the project, but he was not the engineer.
Okay.
Right. To me, when I talked to him, I got the vibe that like he was the face guy.
But
Maybe
he was,
the
I
ideas
guess,
man, like
Maybe.
I also get that if he was the face guy, he was not the face guy who really knew what he was getting himself into.
Of course not.
Totally.
And, man, there's
Do your research, people, before you sign on to deals like this.
hindsight's 2020. I keep thinking back to that 20-minute like thing I did there, where I didn't touch anything and I just did a bunch of like nodding my head and smiling, and was just sort of like waiting for Mark, our producer, to finish shooting. And I'm just like, who, I'm trying to recreate that scenario.
You're
in my
trying
head.
to CSI piece together
Yeah,
back
and
this
I'm like-
moment and like figure out where it all went wrong.
And I'm like, what was the guy behind the curtain doing? I saw his feet, but that's it. What was the guy with the weird hair all about? What was his role in all this?
All right. Well, I want to leave this behind.
Sure.
All right.
Be
Well,
the
I mean,
past.
My guess.
there's nothing left to this story now. I mean, unless something really nefarious comes out after this. Like, I have to imagine this is just the end of it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Good riddance. We salute you. Good luck, maybe,
Sure.
in everything.
I guess.
Good luck in all your future endeavors.
But everyone. Peace, we're out. Yeah. Continuing, okay, that's me grinding the gearbox into the continuing story of the Coleco Chameleon. This is the epilogue, I believe.
This is the epilogue, and as far
You
as
finish the book,
Yeah.
and then it's like notes from the author.
What
Supplementary
happened to this
material.
character? I really
6
like
months
this one
later, we
character.
caught up with Coleco Chameleon to see what he was doing now that he's retired in Boca Raton,
This is the
Florida.
Rogue One of Coleco Chameleon stories.
I linked this post to Jeff over the weekend.
He DM'd me.
I
right?
DM'd you it, and you just said, "You have got to be kidding me."
So are we all talking about the kind of like, hey, I've kept my mouth quiet
Yes.
too long?
So Mike Kennedy of who was the person behind the Retro VGS.
Who's the guy I spoke to?
He's the guy you spoke to. He's the guy who like has done like a lot of retro gaming stuff over the years. He just like loves old games.
Yeah.
Like he's a good guy. His heart is true. I think he loves video games. And he kind of like laid it all out, and the story he tells is just.
Where was this?
This is on the Atari Age thread or
Okay.
forums, which is like a very popular retro gaming forum that did a lot of the like detective work back when the Coleco Chameleon was coming out, and even back when it was the Retro VGS, and it didn't sound like it was all adding up.
Can you give me the quick and dirty? I read this whole thing.
Me too. The quick and dirty is he had a team of people, and then there was a person adjacent to the team of people who seemed pretty cool. And then that team of people like was like, this Retro VGS thing is falling apart, peace. And the guy who was adjacent to it was like, oh, hey, I could help you with doing something else with that stuff. Like, give me some money, and I'll be able to run some game with you, and like we'll get together a nice.
I can make prototypes.
Yeah, he's wearing like a trench coat and sunglasses.
But this is all happening, I guess.
Speaking in hushed whispers.
Remotely, because it sounds like not a lot in person.
They totally meet in person. Because here's the thing that happens multiple times: is this dude whose name is, and again, this is all alleged. This is all from Mike Kennedy.
Yeah.
none of this is certified. I haven't gone and done any legwork myself.
There have been no charges filed or anything like that.
And we're pretty sure this is from Mike Kennedy. This is not a spoof post or anything like that.
Right,
it seems pretty legit.
Sean Robinson is the guy who kind of came in from the side of this project to become like the lead engineer on it. And there were a number of times where Sean would be like, hey, if you give me like $4,000 today, I can get a prototype for you by the weekend.
Right, I need another injection.
And like that injection was literally Mike writing him a check and then going to the bank with him and cashing it immediately. And also he might have been using a pseudonym because when he calls him Sean and then in quotes Lee Robinson. So my suspicion is he was going by Lee Robinson during all this.
Sean Cash Robinson.
Right, which is why he could just give him the check because he wouldn't have gone in, you know?
So like Mike seems like a good guy, but hindsight already.
Yeah,
I mean, like, dog.
He straight up got like, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a prototype today. Fucking wimpy
so, like,
bullshit.
I'm just gonna read one little segment that I think is just like, buddy.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Chris from Coleco invited them to go give a demo at Toy Fair. This did pose a challenge to Sean as it expedited the process to produce a prototype a bit and to try to make the show deadline. This is where things started to take a big bad turn. In mid-January, I had a lunch meeting with Sean and point blank asked him what he needs from me to spend the next 30 days working on a prototype full-time to get it prepared for Toy Fair. We agreed on $4,000, which I quickly got to him via a check that he cashed with me at my bank, which is already like alarm signals.
Yeah, right. Red flags, man.
It was then a day before I was traveling to the show that he came over to my house with the Toy Fair quote-unquote prototype with his instructions to not show the back of the unit no matter what, but without any specific information as to why I shouldn't show it other than it used an aftermarket connector that was composite out and that because he didn't have the HD stable enough to get us through the show, that's why he shouldn't show it. I believed him and went to the show with that unit. My biggest concern at that time was getting this conglomeration through TSA and onto the plane. And then like he goes into like, and then people saw the back because I thought they would understand that it was the prototype unit.
He said something in the article like people were questioning how it was running or whether it was really running. So he was like, "I'll just take a picture of the back. People will understand about the composite stuff."
Yeah, people are reasonable.
And that's apparently, according to him, when the kind of like, "Oh, you just have this Mini-SNES, is it?"
Yeah, Mini-SNES.
Just kind of duct taped in there.
See, the problem I have with that paragraph is like I believed him.
Right.
And that,
but why wouldn't you?
You were there. You were like on the ground. This is you.
This is how cons work, though.
But also on the other side of it is that it sounds like he didn't think he was deceiving people, but he also didn't do his due diligence in figuring out whether he was or not.
But didn't I believe him directly follow? It was the day before Toy Fair. And like,
I mean, the guy had said like, "Hey, give me 30 days and I'll have a thing for you." He had exactly 30 days.
So Jeff Backlow, you're on the ground at Toy Fair. You were there. You saw this.
I got
happening.
his spiel.
And so the follow up. I'll just push the accelerator a little bit on this. He winds up. That stuff kind of blows up. He winds up. Having the kind of a moral crisis in a hotel room. He states, and he's like, "Oh, do I keep going or do I pull the plug on this?"
He basically, "Hey, should I stop going to the fair with this thing?"
And he continues to go.
Which he shouldn't have done.
Fast forward a little bit, and we want to see the guts. We want to see the prototype with the shell.
And Sean,
there's more money.
Robinson
right?
says, "I need more money. I'm gonna do more. Give me $3,000 right now, and $3,000 when it's done."
And there's also like I don't know what these are, but there are like code bases or something that he's also trying to buy through another a friend of a friend.
Oh, God, that whole bit. Is
and
really
so
bad.
I didn't really understand all that.
That whole thing is also just like Sean is like, "Hey, give me some money because I know a guy who has the shit we need. I'll just go give him the money, but give me in cash."
Yeah,
and so
I deal in just cash.
So he gets the shell, he gets the thing with the circuit board showing, and apparently they have some kind of conversation where they're like, "Yeah, people are going to try and trace this, but good luck, it's all custom."
Yep.
I'm paraphrasing.
There's this the one quote that it kills me because I want to see it in the movie of this is. Soon after, he emailed me the images of the clear unit with the PC DVR capture card in it. But when he first emailed me the images, he indicated this was our prototype, 100%. I made a comment that it looked great in the photos, and he responded by saying something like, "This is what we can do when given the proper time." And like, oh, you fucking son of a...
That's bad.
You dirty motherfucker.
Yeah, seriously.
And then
that is so slimy.
All that stuff comes out. I guess we'll call him Lee. Says that, hey, those people are wrong. It's not just the PCI capture card. There's stuff underneath that they can't see. And then I guess that's kind of where the story fizzles out because everything kind of explodes at that point.
That's when the coyote realizes he's run out of runway.
Yeah.
And he sees like, oh, that's when gravity kicks in.
Or it's when the actual Looney Tunes episode ends and you're like, huh.
And then the lawyers knock on your door.
Yeah, that didn't feel good. Yeah. Nobody wanted to. Boy, it's kind of Roadrunner.
That's a lawsuit, folks.
That more feels like the Roadrunner just kind of running off, and the Coyote just like kind of stuck there with lawyers being the cops there being like,
"We'll talk to you."
And you can hear his stomach.
No,
growling.
there was a Roadrunner. There was a Roadrunner, and he painted a hole on a wall, and a train came out.
Okay, Mr. Coyote, come with us.
Yes, sir, Mr.
We'll
Coyote.
get you the help you need.
No, you don't understand. Whoa, do you hear that? It sounds like something falling from the sky. It might be an anvil. Come with us,
Let's
sir.
take him to Bellevue.
No, you can't touch me. I don't even know if you're real.
Don't put me in that jacket.
You're with him. You're with the Roadrunner.
And there is a Roadrunner. That's the thing that's terrifying.
And then in the back, up on a cliff is meet.
So that's the thing is like he ends up linking a couple of things from like Usenet from forever ago, like this group stuff of this same dude running game a decade ago, 15 years ago, but with arcade board shit.
Yeah, this is a weird con though.
It is.
It's a $7,000
It's a really specific
con.
one.
It'll be like 10 grand.
But I thought it was 4 and 3.
Like 4, 3, and 3.
Okay.
And then like some other stuff in between.
It's also involving Kickstarter, which brings in the public, as and it's also
the guy who he is accusing of scamming him was like, "Whoa, you shouldn't launch the Kickstarter yet."
Yeah,
and he was like, "What? We got a prototype?
Yep,
let's do it. We're at Toy Fair. This is the time."
Can I say my favorite thing about this? Like the one thing, the one redeeming thing is he made sure those Jaguar shells found a good home.
Oh, right, yeah.
He gave them to other retro gaming enthusiasts so they wouldn't just be in dentist offices anymore.
The whole thing,
I'm fully expecting something else to come to light in July.
I don't know, the whole thing makes it sound like somebody took your grandparents for a trip, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you
shouldn't have given your social.
Oh, but what I got
I was just very happy to talk to someone on the phone.
I can't get my new
computer. So nice.
My new computer to work, and you open it up, and it's like sawdust and hamsters in there, and you're like, "Oh, Grandma, where'd you get this?" Oh no, I don't know. The whole thing is that post made the whole thing just very depressing.
But in that post, he also says "This is it. This is done. I'm not doing it. This is the end of this."
Yeah, I mean, this has fucked up his personal reputation in a way that he will have a hard time getting out from under. And from the sound of things, if everything he says in that post is true, he got taken for a ride. That fucking sucks. But at the same time, he went along with it in a public way. And while I don't think he's irredeemable for this, I think it's gonna be hard for him to get support if he wants to do projects like this in the future.
Right. I started reading this post thinking all right, buddy, what's the story you're going to tell me to try to shift the blame? But I leave it going oh, no one should ever give you money for anything ever.
Exactly.
So this must be true. You've completely ruined your reputation as a business person. So
right, you weren't I had the prototype and I checked it out and everything looked good, and then somebody swapped it out during the Toy Fair.
Right, there wasn't an excuse.
There was a third man.
Right,
he was on the grassy.
I think
the mock-up of the grassy knoll at Toy Fair.
Yeah,
weird toy.
It's a weird toy. It's a weird collector set.
They're kind of running out of ideas in the toy industry.
There's a tie into that new Stephen King TV show on Hulu.
It looks great though.
Yeah,
it's really accurate. Sorry, Jeff, you were going to say
pixel perfect.
No, I was just going to say I had read that post by him, and the first thing I thought was well, there's no evidence here that sort of clears his name. And I know he just said
totally.
And that's
You're
what I'm saying. It leaves enough speculation on the table where it's all right, well, you're play shifting blame enough that you don't come off like an absolute criminal.
Right.
I mean, he's definitely pointing a finger.
But it also put it to this shadowy character. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's
this isn't Dietrich. I think this is an actual person.
His level of involvement, I think, is still a little ambiguous.
So you're saying there's a chance he might have known more than he.
I'm just saying, to me, the first time I read it, I was like, oh, this is just a deflection thing.
Right.
Do we close the book on this, or is there still room for the other Lee's story?
I think we put the book on the shelf, maybe not into storage just yet.
I see.
I think we keep it up there.
We don't put it next to the Ark.
Right.
We don't put it in the deep warehouse.
We keep it up there.
Yeah.
Let it simmer to December, and then when December comes, and we're all right, we're ready to purge a little bit. Then we'll put it.
What
in
happens
storage.
when we get the next rebuttal? When we get Lee's story?
I don't know. Lee's working on the documentary. He's trying to get some. He's trying to get some capital to make the movie.
I gave this guy $4,000. He said he's got a documentary for me. He's got a good story. Didn't turn out.
Lee is already halfway to Venezuela at this point. There's no
on
chance.
His $10K.
Yeah, no. I mean, hey, that'll get you there.
That'll get you there.
Hey, he had some. I saw Lee in the Panama Papers, so he's got some money.
Yeah.
That's timely.
That's a good timely reference.
That's a timely reference.
It is.
I just want to go out and say I apologize to all my fans out there for not being in the Panama Papers. I'm sorry I disappointed all of you.
Tried your best.
I tried my best, but it just I guess I didn't rank.